Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 33, and that is the final episode in the book of Galatians. I'm going to call this, I just start with this because these are going to be highlights and things that I want to remember about the book of Galatians. I'm going to summarize what I've gotten out of the book of Galatians. Things I want to remember. Well, first of all, it's written into a family fight. A family fight in that at the beginning and at the end, Paul calls them brothers, but then yells at them and says, you've deserted and distorted and discarded the gospel, and you're following a gospel contrary. And that sets up the whole book. We remember that God is pleased to reveal. What is it that God likes to reveal himself? So if you want to know what pleases God, it's the revelation of himself. At least that's one of the things. Paul qualifies himself to make this argument by saying, hey, I spent 1,000 days before the first missionary journey, and then 10 years before that, or 10 years after that, to kind of get ready to come and talk to you guys. So even after being a Christian for 14 years, the church was still suspicious of Paul and wondering if he had been running in vain. So one of the things that encourages me about this whole thing is if your church has disputes, that is, if the building doesn't have a dispute with anybody, but if people in your church have disputes, then Galatians is a great book in real time, and it can speak into this. So you're not the first people to have difficulty in the church to read the Bible. All right. One of the rebukes that Paul mentions is rebuking Peter. Now, the problem with Peter is he forgot something that the Lord told him quite clearly 10 years before, and he had kind of backslidden on this. In other words, he had forgotten the back catalog of things that he had already been through with the Lord. So he had to go back to some old mercies. Your mercies are new every morning. And Peter had to go back to some old mercies to get those things fixed before he could move on to the new mercies. Other things I learned, other highlight is that belief is directional. It's incomplete to say, oh, that's a person of faith without describing what is the object of faith. So you have faith in something and in a person. So it's only of our faith, which is not the big deal. It's the faith in Jesus that is the big deal. I thought this great hilarity in Galatians 2:20, I'm crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live. Paul says two things that are absolutely not true. He's not crucified, and he is still living. And so we wrestled with how can these things actually be true, and they are true by faith. And that is, I'm on team crucifixion. The way that I win this war, if you will, and am crucified and get all the benefits and live like it, is I do that on the coattails of Jesus. Now, of course, this is impossible, and we're looking at something that's not true is possible by faith. It's one of the most famous verses in Galatians. And on its face, it's not true. Just a little soundbite. Faith is the special sauce that makes what is true of Jesus true of me. We looked at Abraham for a while. He serves as both a bad example and a good example. One of his good examples is the Lord promises him all these things, but he doesn't get land, he doesn't get children, he doesn't get food. There's going to be starvation, there's going to be no freedom, there's going to be slavery, there's going to be no unmodified male genitalia. And why would Abraham take the deal? And that is because you get two things. You get the Lord and you get the promises of things you don't see. 400 years later, you get the law. And the law, even though it reflects the good character of God and the characteristics of God, what it does to us people is it imprisons us, and it acts as a nag, a guardian, a teacher, that constant companion that keeps asking us, hey, how you doing? And I think it ends up frustrating us. Ironically, it is that we are saved by the law only in Jesus, that is, and we're born into this new family and adopted into this new family, and we get to say to the Father, Abba. So being known by God accurately, and he still loves us. He still wants us. He still chooses us to be in the Jesus family. As opposed to the Galatians, who are following these guys who are flattering them and surrounding themselves with flattering people, versus what we do in the church today is we surround ourselves with people and pastors that tell us, hey, I think you can do better in this. So Paul then says confidently in 4:12, I am become as I am, period. And we looked at what we would say that become as I am, except for this and this and this. We find that Abraham later becomes a bad example when he takes matters into his own pants. Shame on him. Paul wants us to live like Christ is an advantage because he either is or he isn't, and that is because the cross is offensive. All the things that are offensive. I'm bad. I can't save myself. I don't make the rules. Sacrifice is required. Blood is required. The Holy Spirit has to help you. All these things are offensive, and it's essential. It's key that the cross offends us. Interesting. Then he gets very practical at the end. Through love, serve. And we promise that's where you're going to find the best people in the church. Now, all along, as you're trying to do these things, there's 15 and a half things with your zipper and with your worship and relationships that are going to war against you, even though you're still a believer. And everybody wants the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, and there's no fruit without the fight. That's one of my favorites. So as we live by the Spirit, expect a war. It's a characteristic of all who belong to him that there's going to be a fight, and the fruit of the fight of the Holy Spirit is love. The fruit of the fight of the Holy Spirit is joy, etc. And then finally, we learned that Elon Musk was right, that sometimes things blow up in the church. There has to be a mechanism of restoration and rebuilding. And practically, there's a charge at the end to bear your own burdens and also bear others' burdens. Test your work. Don't give up. Fulfill this new law. We just got 5 chapters. He gets rid of the law, and then he gives us a new law. It's the law of love. It's the law of Christ. It's the law of the new creation, empowered by the Holy Spirit, empowered by living by the Spirit, walking by the Spirit. That he says, don't grow weary. And if you find weary people, help them. And then finally, he authenticates this with his own hands, his own scars, and his own vision loss. Why? Because you stoned me. All right, that's it. That's the highlights from the book of Galatians. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the book of James tomorrow.